Captain's Log, subdate 200430.1, we have managed to chart a course correction that will lead us to a familiar realm. I have also set the autopilot, and am now able, courtesy of a modification to the replicators, to replicate Synthahol, which will allow me to think of new ways to hack the Star Destroyer Fluffykins. Welcome everyone to the 34th exhibition of Stupid People. Today we have 5 subjects to address. Before that, there's a new video on Moisky Live, and I should be streaming on Skog's channel some D&D later, maybe Twitch as well. Link to everything in the description down below. So to start, let's start with Mark DiStefano, who was once a BuzzFeed journalist. He now works, kind of in limbo, for the Financial Times. He's one of those people that creeped a lot of the anti-SJW community, and then when YouTube shifted what could and could not be monetized, he would go in on those channels he felt shouldn't be monetized, the majority of which are no longer monetized. Tommy Robinson was one, Sargon of Akkad on literally every channel he's ever created is another. Dankula, I believe, is the more recent. Both Dankula and Sargon have done videos on Mark DiStefano along with their own experience when it comes to interactions with him, and of course gay ops trolling. I'll link them down below if you're at all interested in watching. Mark DiStefano actually did something quite stupid recently that I think is worth pointing out because we discussed it briefly on Tuesday. Zoom bombing, but not in the way he did it. But it's still a kind of version of it, where he hacked into conferences and private meetings held by the Independent and Evening Standard. Private meetings with their editors, Evening Standard's most notable for having George Osborne, the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, as their editor. Originally, he logged in with his Financial Times email address with his name appearing on screen for a couple of seconds, before realizing the mistake, logging out, and logging in with a dud account. But being the genius that he is, possibly a boomer at this point, there was a phone number connected to this dud account that linked back to his Financial Times email address. Oh boy, the fact that he was also using the information he was getting from those meetings to talk about it on Twitter did him additionally no favours. When a watchdog gets involved because he works for the Financial Times regardless of the Financial Times suspending him for what he did, hence why he is in limbo, they're going to get hurt. They can try and wash their hands of it, but he is still one of their employees using an employee email address. One can hope Mark DiStefano, the purity tester of the world, no longer works in journalism from this day on, because his type of journalism is what annoys me about journalists. It is bad tactics, and even worse, it is also bad targets. Next, to take a break from the more serious subjects we sometimes cover here, I want to talk about an article I stumbled across by chance. One that I have dubbed hate speech of the highest order because it quantifies me. I don't like that. It's an article by Kasa. I'm not going to try and pronounce it because I'll probably sound like an absolute tool. This is from last year, but given to me as if it was this year because people like this. And it's a break from the other subjects. The quantification is the generations, where you have the baby boomer from 1944 to 1964. From 1965 to 79 you have Gen X. Then you have the millennials from 1980 to 1994. I'm in 86, I'm quite triggered by this. Can I just be Gen when the world bloody well started? And then Gen Z 95 to 2015. What's the next one? Can we just give them a really bad one? Can we call them Generation Trevor? I only bring this up because I took mild offence at the idea that they had to make an entire article to explain what each generation was, how it was named that generation, and the fact that apparently I'm a millennial. Grumble. Let's move on to some COVIDiots, because they're doing their rounds again. And boy oh boy, it's like they don't learn. Every day the United Kingdom's government gives an update via a press briefing. During this briefing they will talk about infection rates and of course the death rate for those infected and affected by coronavirus. The numbers aren't entirely accurate though. They're not like Germany where they've been able to get truly on top of it. So there are many who have died from coronavirus that may not have died from coronavirus because they had something else. And then there are those who are not diagnosed who have had coronavirus but died as well. And let's not forget those in social care. They have also not been truly added up and included into the correct statistic. Our death toll, though, is over 20,000. While I make jokes about 2020 No Lives Matter, those are 20,000 lives I'm meant to take when I'm elected, not by some poxy virus. The government has rules about what one should do so as to best look out for themselves, yourselves, and those around you. Right, well, as you can see here, people are flouting the rules in Coatbridge, Lancashire. People are queuing up during the lockdown, quite a lot of people queuing up to go do some DIY outside B&Q because they couldn't furlough all their staff. As you can see, London congestion, while 34% below average, still pretty high on the congestion. I can't imagine why. Let's not forget here people are still gathering in quite large groups to go to the beach. Now, companies are in the process of reopening. Homebase, a DIY store, has opened 22 stores. Burger King has opened 6 branches. KFC, 15 restaurants. In the grand scheme, that means nothing. The list does go on, and some are reopening, but mostly if they're drive-through. But people are continuing to ignore the rules, and the reason why is because, oddly, when we want to go outside, it rains. But now we're stuck inside. It has been sunny and warm almost every single day. And people are like, yo fam, my tan in its swag, I must go out there and look like totes amazeballs, cause honestly, reasons. The police have powers where they can give you fines. There was a family that did a little string quartet on the corner of their neighbourhood street. The police did threaten to fine them for that, although I do think it was more than likely because they weren't standing 2 meters apart. In one respect, it is rather amusing to see the COVIDiots still doing this, persisting in their endeavours to top up their tans. But while the numbers are going down, that does not mean you all now go outside. It just means the government's current tactics are working, and we have to stay the course, because risking the infection rate going back up again is not worth it for a bit of sun. Next, I want to talk about a doctor. Due to what is going on, doctors are taking extra measures to protect their families when they're able to go home and spend time with them. For this we have Dr. Arrow, who had bought an RV and put it on the drive as a means for him to be able to live at home but not risk infecting his family. Since doing this though, the police have been called 5 times to his home. They have not done anything. His lawn has been sprayed with chemicals because one must look after it, by killing it, and he has had racial abuse thrown at him by his neighbour, who has since been charged and had a protective order placed on them. The reason they did this, though, is interesting because Dr. Arrow didn't actually get permission from the city to have the RV on his drive, which you do actually need. But under the circumstances, and even the city conceded, there was a reason and a valid one why he would have that there temporarily, so he could at least go, air quotes, home without running the risk of infecting his wife or children. But the fact the neighbour handled this by hurling racial abuse, ruining his lawn and calling the police with nothing substantial is a waste of police time, resources, chemicals for the grass, because seriously, why would you do that? Lawn maintenance is very important, when all you ever had to do was talk to your neighbour. If you didn't like it, he would have then been able to explain to you that under the circumstances, he needs it for the safety of his family, which is where the city will undoubtedly side with him when this goes further. I wanted to highlight this because it is really silly. I had considered a Halls of Injustice, but we don't know the name of the neighbour, and I'd rather not do many videos without the name of the culprit. But also you can argue that Dr. Arrow is also stupid for not getting the city's permission to have it on his drive, although there is no indicator as to whether or not he had been a victim of racial abuse prior to having the RV on his drive in the first place. So to our final article, we're going to go to Disney. Now this one was going to feature on This Week at Twitter tomorrow, but I have a fully loaded video for that, and this I found an article for before I saw the tweet. Therefore, this is definitely exhibition of stupid people worthy, and a worthy main eventer. As many of you will undoubtedly know, on May the 4th it is typically a Star Wars day. The hashtag is usually May the 4th, and then people will post memes, gifs, and appreciation for Star Wars. It's not really my thing. I'm a Star Trek guy, don't you know? I know I have moist window, but that was entirely to mess with Sith, and we do now exist in a shuttle pod. Uniform, by the way, coming soon. Well, Disney has decided to try and test the limits of what they can and can't own when it comes to the hashtag. If you don't know already, Disney own pretty much everything anyway. If there's something they don't own, give them time. They may well get bored enough to buy North Korea. So they tweeted out this, which has kind of got, right. People aren't overly fond of this, because you are attempting to claim ownership of a hashtag, which has gotten many others below commenting not just about the copyright aspect, but about how Disney have tried to claim things, like trying to sue a father who put a Spider-Man icon on his 3-year-old son's headstone, or when Disney blacklisted the LA Times from film reviews because it wrote about their shady theme park practices. It should be noted, hashtag May the 4th does not belong to Disney. When Disney tried to claim ownership of it, honestly, stop it. And enough fans are annoyed with your current saga anyway. Are you sure you want to be celebrating much of it? Perhaps just focus on The Mandalorian and the original trilogy. Because of the confusion, Disney had to update the tweet, saying that the wording applied only to specific tweets in the original thread. While it is accepted that due to the popularity of the hashtag, it is unlikely Disney is trying to claim ownership of it, they have 250 characters. They could have gone for something else. And it should also be added that Twitter's current policy states that users own the unique content they post on the social media service. So, for example, a user can give permission to someone else to use their tweet, but since retweets exist, you don't really have to go looking for permission to repost it that way. And the additional risk is that Disney is implying that users that use the hashtag have Disney's permission to do that, or that Disney have to give them permission to do that. It's quite pathetic, quite sad. Disney, just buy Twitter at this point. With all the subjects we covered today, I would very much like to know what you think was the stupidest. I'm leaning towards Mark Stefano and Disney, but I would love to know what you all think, so please do let me know in the comments down below. If I don't see you tonight, over on whatever stream it is I'm doing, I can't remember. I hope you all have a fantastic Thursday, and thank you all for listening.